everybody. We had a beautiful day on Harinam today. Mridanga Prabhu and the crew. Kirtanya Nadi Bihar. Such a nice Harinam. It's such intense battle of power with the followers of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's still going on.
Of course. Kirtan Ishvar. Yeah, I posted a video. I said it's Kirtan, doing Kirtan with his best friend Kirtan. So it was really nice. But they were really, really aggressive. And then the students called the cops. It was a whole drama.
Again today?
Yeah.
Cops here?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Like the campus security?
Campus cops, yeah. Campus police. Yeah, it was interesting.
That doesn't look so good for
that. They were really lying to us about, they were like pointing at us and saying so many things, but we were just chanting Hare Krishna the whole time. We said nothing else. So we said, it's okay to lie for Christ. That was the message I got from them. Anyways, is whatever. They actually help us. They always, every time they come, we distribute more books.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they catch on. Their approach isn't working.
But it was fun. It was fun. It was actually really fun out. So today we'll be starting the passing away of Bhishma Dev. This is a very significant chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam. You did your book report on the passing away of Bhishma Dev, huh?
Yeah.
I'll have you.
Did we start chapter 9 then?
We're starting it today. I'll have you read it. You can give us a review at some point. Uh-oh.
Maybe
tomorrow. Because no one's going to be here tomorrow. What, the database?
I don't know. I thought you were saying to him when he said he was going to do a review at some time. You're like, is that what you were responding to?
Huh?
No, I said she did a book report on passing away of Bhishma Dev because she's doing this Bhagavatam thing for school. I said she'll have to read her report sometime.
I'll read her report. Yeah. For public school?
Yeah. We can always do a chapter review. How long is it?
Oh, 3 paragraphs. You need to do.
Okay, read.
It's like every 2 weeks or every 1.5 weeks we do. So,
Do you have it handy?
I don't know parts of it. I mean, I was mostly focusing on the passing part. It was the verse where Vishnu was like, I'm so fortunate and all that he's come before me. And I thought it was like, wow, most people were trying to avoid our death. We're not thinking, oh, I'm so fortunate when something bad happens. But he's lying on a bed of arrows and he's like, oh, I'm the luckiest person. I get to pass in the presence of Shri Vishnu.
Yeah, if we think about it, we're also that lucky. We get all the devotees, which is even like having Krishna. My dog passed away with the Govardhan Shila on her head. She got some mercy. Okay, so we'll do a whole review of the Bhagavatam, how we came here. So, can someone give me a brief kind of why are we talking about Bhishma Dev? How did this all happen? This is what we're really trying to get out of this class. This is the whole goal of the class. And then I'll say the Om Namo Bhagavate, but we'll start with that. And then we'll go and I'll say quick prayers. I'm going to get a long dry Radhamadava. Everybody's singing me. I was running a little late. I was so tired after Harinam.
Well, Bhishma Dev had the boon that he could leave his body whenever he liked. So it was actually, he wasn't actually, didn't die, prematurely. So he lied there on the bed of arrows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shiva was rasa with Krishna. So in that rasa, Krishna appeared before him. And it said, and he shot the arrows that he shot that Krishna were like roses.
They were also
like roses.
They were also, you're talking about roses, they were like love bites.
Exactly.
Love bites. I always liked that. I don't know. I thought that was cool. The first time I read it, I was like, this is far out.
You mean the broader context for the big?
Yeah, that was cool. That's all. Everything you said is correct. But what I mean more or less is how it all is the whole, how this is all coming together is the whole in the Bhagavatam. Why are we talking about Bhishma?
Well, we were stepping back to get Parikshit's story.
Yeah.
Right, and that put us back in the battle of Kurukshetra, and now we're kind of circling these amazing characters.
That's the main point, yeah. So we were put back. And so before that, we were speaking of the history of Bhagavatam. And so some questions were asked, how did Shukadeva Goswami come across Maharaj Parikshit? So then we're hearing that. And we also heard about Vyas and Narada having their little conversation. You see, this whole first canto, the point we want to get from it is that it's the history of how the Bhagavatam came to be. And it's a glorification of the Bhagavatam that speaks about basically the qualifications of a person who's able to hear Bhagavatam. And basically the best qualified person to hear Bhagavatam was Maharaj Parikshit. And the most qualified speaker of Bhagavatam was Shukadeva Goswami. And actually there's different ways of analyzing the Bhagavatam. Anybody who wants to go much deeper in the Bhagavatam, from what we're doing here, they can watch a structural review of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a series of probably 18 lectures by His Holiness Bhakti-Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. It'll take you very, very deep.
A structural what?
Structural review of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's like a Bhakti Vaibhav crash course on steroids. And I mean, I've known a lot of people who've started the lecture series. I've known only one person who's finished it.
Are they that long?
They're long. They're like an hour and a half to 2 hour lectures each. I mean, it's a long time. And the only person I know who watched all of them successfully was our very dear Ananta Dave.
Bhakti Vikas.
Is there one for,
Bhakti Vigyan.
is there one for Temple?
No,
Is there a ratio?
he does. I'm not sure, but I think there's 18 parts. It might be 12 parts. But he doesn't do canto by canto, but it's more than just canto by canto. It's more like a lot of it's topic by topic too.
Oh, he's got it in a playlist. So that's
Yeah.
kinda handy. 17 videos.
Yeah. Really amazing.
Each
Okay.
one 2 hours.
Okay, so good news. Gurudev is speaking tomorrow night.
Oh, great. He feels so good. I'm good.
So,
Nice.
okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Nadirai Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavti Naishtaki Om Jnana Tamarandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chaksharam Metam Nina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Okay, I'm shortening the prayers tonight because it took a long time on Jai Madhav and I ran late coming here. I forgot my pick. So we'll start with verse 1. Passing pairs of Bhishmadev. Sutta uvacha iti bita prajadrohat sarvadama vivishtsaya tato vinashanam vagad yatra deva vrato patat. Sutta Goswami said, being afraid for having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhisthira went to the scene of the massacre. There Bhishmadev was lying on a bed of arrows about to pass away. Purport. In the 9th chapter, as it is willed by Lord Sri Krishna, Bhishmadev will impart instructions to Yudhisthira on the subject of occupational duties. Bhishmadev will also offer his last prayer to the Lord on the verge of passing away from this mortal world, and thus become liberated from the bondage of further material engagements. Bhishmadev was endowed with the power of leaving his material body at will, and his lying down on the bed of arrows was his own choice. Passing away of the great warrior attracted the attention of all the contemporary elites, and all of them assembled there to show their feelings of love and respect and affection for the great soul. So this is quite amazing, is that Bhishmadev was such a great soul that even Vyas, Narada, all the sages, Sita and Deva, they all appeared to wish him well at the time of his death. So he had a good passing. We should also want the great devotees around at the time of death. Sometimes when I hear kirtan by a really nice devotee, I think that's what I want when I leave my body. I want you to chant. Like Balaram Shakti would be really great. Being my body, Balaram Shakti is chanting kirtan. Next verse. Tada te bhattara sarve saraswai sarvanam bhutashit. Sorry. Saraswai swarna bhutshitai anvagachan rater vipra vyasadam yadayastata. At that time, all his brothers followed him on a beautiful chariots, drawn by first-class horses, decorated with gold ornaments. With them were Vyas and rishis like Damya, the learned priest of the Pandavas, and others. Of course, Vyas is related to them. He's their grandfather. Bhagavanapi Briprashe Ratena Sadananjaya Satir Vyarochata Nripa Kuvera Eva Guyakai. O sage amongst the Brahmanas, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, also followed. Seated on a chariot with Arjuna, thus King Yudhishthira appeared very aristocratic, like Kuvera surrounded by his companions, the Guyakas. Lord Sri Krishna wanted the Pandavas to be present before Bhishma Dev in the most aristocratic order, so that he might be pleased to see them happy at the time of his death. Kuvera is the richest of all the demigods, and herein Yudhishthira appeared like him, for the procession along with Sri Krishna was quite appropriate to the royalty of King Yudhishthira. Text 4. Drishtva nipatitam bhumau divashchitam ivamaram pranemu pandava bhishmam sanuga sahachakrina. Seeing him, Bhishma, lying on the ground like a demigod fallen from the sky, the Pandava king, Yudhishthira, along with his younger brothers and Lord Sri Krishna, bowed down before him. Lord Krishna was also a younger cousin of Maharaj Yudhishthira, as well as the intimate friend of Arjuna. But all the family members of the Pandavas knew Lord Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. The Lord, although conscious of his supreme position, always behaved in a humanly custom, and so he bowed down before the dying Bhishma Dev, as if he were one of the younger brothers of King Yudhishthira. Learn a lot from Krishna's behavior. Krishna is humble, bowing down before the greater souls. I spoke about this briefly in Bhagavatam class, but I was giving a Bhagavatam class on an online Sangha, which I was invited to speak at by one of my dearly beloved Shiksha gurus. And so I was all Prabhupada disciples and really senior devotees to me, so it was very intense. So as I gave the class, at one point I said we should have respect for everybody, including the new bhakta. And I brought a point that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur brings up, that if we think, well, that's not a devotee, they're not so strict, we end up making offenses ourselves. And the devotee became very upset. He raised his hand, the question is, I agreed with 99% of your class, Prabhu, but, we shouldn't. And he basically said all we have to do is respect devotees like Prabhupada or Vaishnavas. Other people aren't Vaishnavas. If they're Prabhupada's level, they're Vaishnavas. And it was really, really whack. And I just stood my ground. I said, Prabhu, Krishna says a learned man sees a dog, an elephant, a dog eater, an elephant, an outcast, Brahmana equally. I started quoting many Shastras. And then some other people chimed in, Amanina Madanina, right? I have respect for every living entity. He was shut down. And then I talked to my Guru Maharaj afterward, Shiksha Guru Maharaj, and he said, I was so happy with you, Kirtaneshwar. I was feeling so blissful when I see you. This guy needed to be shut down, and you just stood your ground. So we have to be respectful. But he also said you were extremely respectful. You did it in a completely humble and respectful way. But we also have to be able to stand up when we see nonsense. Part of being a devotee, you can't shut down nonsense. Then really, it's part of preaching. You have to be able to say no. You have that bravery to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Okay, next verse. Tatra bhamashaya sarve devashayascha satama rajashayascha tatrasan drastum bharata pungavam. Just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharata, Bhishma, all the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis amongst the demigods, brahmanas, and kings, all situated in the quality of goodness, were assembled there. Someone can read the purport.
Good.
The rishis are those who have attained perfection by spiritual achievements. Such spiritual achievements can be earned by all, whether one is a king or a mendicant. Bhishma Deva himself was also one of the Brahma rishis and the chief of the descendants of King Bharata. All rishis are situated in the quality of goodness. All of them assemble there on hearing the words of the great warriors intending death.
So there's an important point we can make here is that there's all these great souls, and there's some are named here: Parvata Muni, Narada Muni, Brihadaswa. Remember Parvat Muni? Yeah, remember Parvat Muni, Prabhu? Yeah, you know Parvat Muni, Chris? I think he might have been before you. You knew Parvat Muni, maybe.
Parvat Muni?
Das.
Is it Bhagavatam?
No, the Prabhu of the Das.
Oh, no, I don't think I do.
He's a good guy. He was brahmachari. He loved prasadam. Maybe even.
Oh, wait, in LA?
Yeah.
He was in LA, right?
Yeah.
Kind of heavy set?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
He loved prasadam even more than you, Mridanga. He loved prasadam.
In the hospital, is that the same?
He left his body in the hospital. One time he stole an entire tray of cheesecake. Entire tray.
I thought it was brownies. You said last time it was brownies.
I think it was cheesecake.
Okay.
I asked, Lita was one down, and no one knew where it went, but we always he loved prasadam. He had like sickness, but he said, prasadam, Prabhu, we can eat prasadam. He went back to Godhead directly. He left his body where Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement. Incredibly wonderful soul.
He gave me a class on sweets.
He used to just
Class on what?
Krishna Katha all day.
Sweets?
Your favorite topic.
Oh, yes.
So-
Cooking class?
No, on eating.
Bharadwaj was there, Parshuram was there, Vashishta was there, Gautama, Atri, Shukadev Goswami was there, Kashyapa Muni was there, Angirasa was there, and their disciples. So quite amazing. Another point here is that it says that I like this point, is an important point we can kind of remember, is that all the rishis are situated in the quality of goodness. So what does it mean to be situated in the quality of goodness? It means we basically are following the program. If you follow the program, you can become in goodness. That means you rise early, you chant nicely, you take Krishna Prasadam, you read the books, you study, you do the process, you'll be in goodness. When you're in goodness, you can just handle the world. What I've noticed just recently, I've been realizing there's a lot of material life that's kind of hitting me in the face. Material desires, all these things. And I'm thinking, they're difficult to handle. But if we're in goodness, we can handle them. We can actually sit there and say that these problems are not my God. What I've been thinking since my realization is that this desire is not my God. This problem is not my God. This person is not my God. Krishna is my God. And these things don't control me. Krishna controls me. And although I would like this, or I want this, or this is a really wonderful dream I would like to have happen, it may not happen. In fact, it looks like it's not going to happen. But you know what? That problem is not a false idol in my life. And I kind of got this, it was like this whole insight on this idol worship. And people say idol worship. And I think it's quite misunderstood that idol worship is when you put something above Krishna in your life. When you have something that's not mame kam sharanam brajaha. When you have a goal, when you have a desire, and all of a sudden a person or a circumstance starts to control your emotions. Especially like in a lot of times romantic relationships, it's like that, you make that other person your God, and then each interaction with that person basically determines their mood. And that's idol worship for all intents and purposes. But when you realize Krishna is God, then full peace.
She said something like that. She said something like, worry is when we're worshiping our problems.
What's the next verse, Jamuna? What'd you say, Prabhu? I missed you. I got caught in the...
Mother Rukmini was saying that worry is when we worship our problems.
Yeah.
Because you're giving so much time, attention, and energy to that problem, you're worried. And it's like worship.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. That's exactly it. We're going to have Jamuna read text 6-7. Go ahead, Jamuna. Read it in Sanskrit and English and purport. That's your punishment. It's a long purport. It's a long purport. No, we're not gonna do the whole purport.
Oh my gosh, you should just read that.
It's your punishment.
Oh my god.
Oh, he keeps going.
Yeah. You get
Alright, I got you.
Parvato Narado Damyo Bhagavan Badarayana Vidraswa Badridva Sishasyo Renuka Sutta Vashishta Indra Pamara Strito Gritsa Madosita Kakshivan Gautamo Trishcha Kaushikota Sudarshanaha. Okay, go ahead and read. No, the purport is going to go over each who sage is. And that's really interesting. Prabhupada gives us a background, but we're not going to go into that. You should have read the first canto, hopefully, all of you read the first canto at some point. But it's very interesting, but we don't have the time to just read a biography on each sage. So go ahead and read the verse.
All the sages like Bhagavata Muni, Narada, Dhoni, Vyasa, and the incarnation of God, Bhagavata and Parshurama, and disciples Vashishta, Indra, Kanada, Jitra, Samada, Ashita, Pakshivan, Gautama, Ati, Kaushika, and Sudarshana were present. Ati?
Thank you. Next verse.
What's your favorite verse?
Because of verses 6, 7.
It's a thing. It's a whole class in its own.
It's just brain rot.
But the Ati, is it like
It's
Ati?
Then it says, I already skipped the next verse. There's a phenomenon amongst young children saying 6, 7. Atri Rishi.
I just read 6, 7 last night of the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 12.
Wasn't there.
Combined, 6, 7.
She wasn't there to brought it out. Atri Muni, yes.
Oh, is it like the ones, your family gotra? Is that the same one?
Likely. You're not. Your family gotra is Achyuta gotra, though.
Yes. Everyone thinks.
When Bala Gopinath got married, because Padma Rukmini wasn't initiated, they put her in Kashyapa gotra, and Bala Gopinath was Achyuta gotra.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kashyapa. No, Kashyapa is the head of a lot of races, not just the demons. He had 60 wives,
60?
Yeah.
I thought it was like 16.
No.
Oh, wow.
60 of Daksha's daughters were married to Kashyapa, including DT and Aditi. Okay, text 8. Anye cha munayo brahmarkrata dayo mala shishyar upeta abjagmu Kashyapan girashadaya. And many others like Shukadev Goswami and other purified souls, Kashyapya, Angirasa, and others, all combined by their respective disciples, arrived there. This is also going to describe those personalities. Hopefully we have some idea. We can give a brief review as to who is Shukadev Goswami. Anybody can tell me who Shukadev Goswami is?
Narrator of the Bhagavata Sanga.
Yeah, he's the one who, yeah, he's the son of Vyasadeva.
Oh, and Radharani's parent.
Yes, and who's Kashyapya?
Great sage.
Yeah.
Gave birth to
The Buddha's dad.
Yeah, Garuda's dad, he's Hiranyakashipu's dad, he's Hiranyaksha's dad, he's Vamana Dev's dad. A lot of great souls.
That'd be an interesting one. I felt there's a bird.
Oh, we need a family tree where we can let's see it visually to remember all the different relationships of the different
Buddha was given elephants to eat.
characters
Oh, yeah.
in the story.
Elephants?
That's what this says.
Elephants?
He is the father of the giant bird Garuda, who was given elephants and tortoises as eatables.
He's a big guy. I can't imagine how big. He's like the size of a, 747.
Yeah. An elephant is your appetizer. That's pretty big.
Imagine that when you die and everybody's just crying, and you just see a big 747 bird coming in.
So, how did he cool when he's little?
Who did he marry?
Elephants.
Because this says he only married 13 others.
No, you might be right. I may be wrong. I was remembering something in the sixth canto that Daksha had 60 daughters, maybe 13 were given. Yeah, I was thinking the word 60 was coming from Daksha's daughters.
Oh, okay.
You're probably right.
67.
1.9.9. Anybody else have any comments that are relevant?
I was distracted with this.
Is Sarabi the cow?
Yes.
So he married the cow?
Maybe not. I mean, you said I don't.
Can you repeat? Can you go over it again? What you're...
Okay, Gauranga's going to read. Gauranga's interested in this information on Kasapya, so he's going to read the paragraph on Kasapya now.
You wanted to?
Yeah.
Okay. Kashapa, one of the Prajapatis, the son of Marichi, and one of the son-in-laws of Prajapati Daksha, is the father of the gigantic bird Garuda, who was given elephants and tortoises as equals. He married 13 daughters of Prajapati Daksha, and their names are Aditi, Diti, Danu, Kashta, Arishta, Surasa, Yoa, Muni, Prudhavasha, Tamra, Surabhi, Sarama, and Jimmy.
So I don't think that's the same Sarabi, no, is what we were speaking of previously.
Oh, he got many children, both demigods and demons, by those wives. From his first wife Aditi, all the 12 Adityas were born. On one of them is Vamana, the incarnation of Godhead. This great sage, Kashyapa, was also present at the time of Arjuna's birth. He received a presentation of the whole world from Parashurama, and later on he asked Parashurama to go out of the world. His other name is Rishtanemi. He lives on the northern side of the universe. Wow, he's been here for a long time because Yaksha was like super long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, not too long though. I mean, not really in terms of a lot of.
Well, Yaksha, that was like, well, the whole earth was still water, no?
No, because the Hiranyaksha incident happened a separate time than the Vraha Lila we hear about in the Bhagavatam is two pastimes combined and told as one. So the pastime of Sweta Vraha happens in the beginning of the universe in the Manu series of Swayambhuva Manu, whereas it's impossible for the Hiranyaksha incident to happen in the Swayambhuva Manu age because Swayambhuva Manu is basically the grandfather of Daksha, who gave birth, who his daughters, Daksha's daughters, Diti, married Kashyapa. So Daksha's daughters, Daksha is the son of. There's two Dakshas. There's the first Daksha, he was there at the beginning and he kind of lost his head. And his head was cut off by Virabhadra on the order of Lord Shiva. And then he was given a goat head. And so then he was basically kind of like, I don't really want to do this anymore. So he left his body. I don't know if he committed suicide or how that happened, but he decided to give up that body.
Oh, then he became the son of the Prajapatis.
He became the son of not the Prajapatis, but the Prachetas. And so as the son of the Prachetas, he married, then he had 10,000 sons, and he had 1,000 sons. Narada turned them all into sannyasis, and so then he had 60 daughters. Narada didn't touch them. And so then those daughters were married off. 13 of those daughters were given to Kashyapa. And one of those daughters was Diti, and from Diti came Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu. So this happened in the Chakshusha Manu. So basically, the whole line of Uttanapad happened until, and everything we read about basically in the third and fourth canto, until the Prachetas happened up until the point of Chakshusha Manu. And then Chakshusha Manu incident, where the Chakshusha Manu shifted over, and at that time Priyavrata became king.
Mm.
And Daksha went off to start generating life again. So he's been around since the Chakshusha Manu.
That was the last one, no?
Yeah.
Okay, so like a whole Manu ago. That's still quite some time.
I mean, quite a long time, but not really compared to like.
For human years. And,
yeah.
And
Comparatively to like the pastimes that are taking place when you're hearing about Dhruva, I mean, that's inconceivably long ago.
Really?
Yeah, because Dhruva is the son of Uttanapad, and Uttanapad is the son of the first human.
Oh, wow.
So that's going back to the Satya Yuga that's going back to the Satya Yuga at the very beginning of Brahma's day. So that's the beginning of the day of Brahma. That's like Brahma's morning. He makes all these beings, and the first humans that come out are Shatarupa. And that's the thing, is that basically Brahma's creating these beings, first the Kumaras, and then Lord Shiva, and then he creates all these sages, and they're like, yeah, we'll be Prajapatis, but we need some women. And so, therefore, he's kind of having a slow experience trying to create. And so then he finally, two beings come out, Shatarupa and Swayambhu Manu. And they're the first beings that reproduce sexually, which is like a good system. And he's like, okay, for reproduction. So he's like, okay, so you guys be fruitful. And then and this is the main point we should understand about the 10 topics of Bhagavatam, creation and subcreation, that the subcreation is basically explained in the Bhagavatam through the children of Swayambhuva Manu. Akuti, Devahuti, Prashuti, Uttanapad, and Priyavrata. That's worth memorizing. I've literally made that point every single Bhagavatam class for weeks. Those kids are worth memorizing. Akuti, Prashuti, Devahuti, Priyavrata, and Uttanapad. Because they're all the basic progenitors of mankind. And we can see it when we really analyze that Uttanapad had 2 children, Uttama and Dhruva. And Uttama was killed by the Yakshas. So then Dhruva had a line of children. And so many, children were born. They were the line of kings until basically the Prachetas. And then Daksha decided, I'm not going to be king. I'm going to go sing the Hamsaguya prayers. And I'm going to basically make babies. That was his meditation. And that's why Swayambhuva Manu was like, uh-oh. And this is like his retired time. He was already retired from being a Manu, but he was still alive, kind of far out, because he's Swayambhuva Manu. He's so powerful. He's a great devotee. So then he came down. He said, hey, Priyavrata, son, I need you to, become the king. And that's where we're at in the Bhagavatam in the morning. But then we hear about Akuti in the beginning of the 4th canto. We hear about Devahuti. Devahuti had how many daughters? 9 daughters. So those 9 daughters were given to sages at the beginning of time, kind of the 7 sages, not the 7 sages particularly, but all of those beings that were born out of Brahma's mind, and those sages had many children. And then Prashuti was the wife of Daksha with the goat head. And so presumably before he got the goat head, there was already children. One of those children was Sati. So it's a whole thing that we're hearing about. It's this topic of Visarga. It's the secondary creation, and Prabhupada translates that to the creation of the 4th order. So it's a secondary creation that you're hearing about. And basically through these people.
How does the second generation equate with the 4th order?
Secondary creation means that the first order is Mahavishnu creating everything. The second order is Garbhodakshai Vishnu creating Brahma. The third order is Brahma creating the sages and the beings. And the 4th order is Swayambhuva Manu and his line. You see, that's why it's called creation of the 4th order. Because it's literally the story of Swayambhuva Manu's children. So there you have it. Technical. This is all technical knowledge, but it is nice. I think it's relishable personally, but when you can ask these questions, because most of the time we don't really understand why we're talking about the individuals we're talking about in Bhagavatam class.
Just puts it all in perspective.
So I mean, I hope it's clear what I'm making is that who these beings are and why we're talking about them. So therefore, yeah. And Kashyapa is in the current place we're living, because actually somehow or another, the human race was greatly reduced between after the Prachetas when they were meditating, because when they woke up, there were just trees everywhere.
Yeah.
Massive trees. And in the Prachetas,
How long were they meditating?
long period of time. And they were very angry. And so then the trees, you got this daughter from the daughter of the tree god in the Pramlocha, Apsara, had children, and they got this daughter, and then in her they begot Daksha. And Daksha basically is our great-grandfather, all of us. Through Kasapya. Okay, so we'll do 9, unless there's any more points on that. Thank you for the nice discussion. Tan sametan mahabhagan upalabhya vashutamaha pujayam asadamagya deshakala vibhagavit. Translation. Vishnudev, who was the best amongst the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all great and powerful rishis who were assembled there, for he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place. So
Vasus, what is that? The best of the 8 Vasus.
oh, Prabhu, I know I've heard that answer, but I'm unfortunately unable to answer it properly. I apologize.
Hey, so Bhishma Dev is like on his bent arrows, but like he's still like.
There's a story how. Sorry.
I was just gonna say he's still like.
Yeah,
perfectly.
we're gonna get to that point. But I want to make the point of the Vasus. There's a story how Bhishma Dev became a Vasu. He's actually the son of the Ganges, and there's a whole pastime.
What is a Vasu?
Yeah, and she drowned each of the children. But I'm not.
Do you know what is a Vasu definition?
It's a type of demigod. I went through this in Bhakti Vaibhav, and I was also like trying to determine what exactly is a Vasu. But that's, yeah, I'm not sure. I can't tell you a concise answer.
Demigods, but I think they had some hurt. And so Mother Ganga, she was drowning each of her children. She had to free them from having to give them birth. But for Vishnu Deva, his dad stopped Mother Ganga so she couldn't drown him in his step.
Yeah.
That's according to the movie Big Bad.
Was he the only one who survived?
Yeah, pretty much. Because like his mom had a deal with his dad because he really wanted to marry her, and she said that I'll marry you as long as you don't question whatever I do. And so he let her drown like 7 of the children, but on the 8th one he was like, no, what are you doing? And so she said he broke their like deal, and she said Vishnu did until he was older.
Oh, so he's best of the Vasus because he's the only Vasu.
Really? I guess so. And as a result, he was just kidnapped by her until
Through the purport, expert religionists know perfectly well how to adjust religious principles in terms of time and place. All the great acharyas or religious preachers or reformers of the world execute their mission by adjustment of religious principles in terms of time and place. There are different climates and situations in different parts of the world, and if one has to discharge his duties to preach the message of the Lord, he must be expert in adjusting things in terms of time and place. Vishnudev was one of the 12 great authorities in preaching this cult of devotional service, and therefore he could receive and welcome all powerful sages assembled there at his deathbed from all parts of the universe. He was certainly unable at that time to welcome and receive them physically, because he was neither at his home nor in a normal healthy condition. But he was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind, and therefore he could utter sweet words with hearty expressions, and all of them were well received. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by words, and he knew well how to utilize them in the proper place, and therefore there was no difficulty for him to receive them, although physically unfit. So this is a purport that we need to understand very nicely, that adjusting according to time, place, and circumstance, a religious, expert religionist knows how to do this. And so what I'll say is the best way to understand this is when you understand what is the goal of the Hare Krishna movement, then it becomes easy. What is the goal of the Hare Krishna movement?
Saving souls.
Exactly. Rascal, become Krishna conscious. Prabhupada said that's what the Hare Krishna movement means. Rascal, hey rascal, become Krishna conscious. And so when you understand this, when that becomes the main thing that we're trying to do, all of a sudden you have a really empowered life. That's it. If you don't think, how am I going to preach today? What am I going to do to make people devotees? If you're not thinking like that, if you're thinking, how am I going to get, how am I going to get money? How am I going to get women? If you're thinking like that, then you can't be Krishna conscious. It doesn't work. Prabhupada said one purport, I just heard the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada said one purport that the devotee doesn't spend his time thinking about how to get money. Money comes, money doesn't come. I know money comes because somehow or another I don't work, but I have money to do things in Krishna service. Money is a natural result of your activities. If your activities are genuine and serving Krishna, and Krishna desires it for his service, you'll have money. So why focus on the money? That's focusing on the fruit, rather focus on the work. That's karma yoga. What is your work? Is your work actually worthy of money? So that's actually a sign of love. When you really just put your heart where the love of Krishna is guiding you and you serve in that way, then you'll have money. You'll have abundance. Otherwise, you're in Maya to some degree. You're caught up in that which is not, the temporary money. Lakshmi's chanchala. So the point here is that when you put Krishna above everything and you put especially Lord Chaitanya's mission above everything, and that becomes your principle in life, now you can understand how to adjust things nicely. You can understand how to preach to someone nicely and how to do things nicely without compromising Prabhupada's mood. We have a certain standard we keep for ourselves, but we also have a certain way that when you see a new person, we should think, I want to make them a devotee. That's how we should think. If we think like that, I want to make them a devotee. And I'm going to, that means, okay, I'm willing to tolerate the fact that they put the Bhagavad Gita on the ground. Some of the ones that, I find is like, welcome to the Hare Krishna temple. Here's the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much. Oh, don't put it on the ground. Don't put it on the ground, boss. Pick that Bhagavad Gita up or get out. Okay, sorry. Sorry, you can take the book back if you want. I'm really sorry. Just like, come on, guys. Come on. I'll take the offense. I'll take the offense of putting the Bhagavad Gita aground if you just don't ruin this person's experience. Give us a chance to give them some prasadam and preach to them, become friends with them, and bring them into Krishna consciousness. You see, so there's so many things that are minor and can be adjusted. And there are so many things that can't be adjusted. One of those things is 4 principles, 16 rounds. We don't adjust that. Other things we can adjust. Prabhupada said, even if you're on the altar doing an artik and a guest walks in, Prabhupada said, what should you do? You should stop the artik, get off the altar, and meet the guest. So 95% of pujaris I know would never even think of doing anything like that. Be like, they'll put the deity worship above the preaching. It's all for the preaching. It's all serving the preaching. So when you understand that goal, all of a sudden things adjust. Just like today, Mridanga Prabhu was saying, that was nice. When I meet people on Sankirtan, I just say my name is Mike. Because then it's more like, giving them some weird name. My name's Kirtaneshwar.
The less degree of separation that they're feeling. They're feeling the degree of separation. They don't understand, the dread. They don't understand the culture. So that's one separation. And then the name, they'll never be able to remember. So then that's another degree of separation for them.
The first day I met Padma Rukmini, she came into the temple with some person. The person said, this is my friend. And I said, hi, nice to meet you. She said, what's your name? She goes, Karan Tatiana. I said, what? Karan Tatiana. I said, what? Karan Tatiana. I said, nice to meet you. She said, my name's Kirtaneshwar Gaurangadas. And she looked at me, I said, yeah, I said, I have one too. My name's Kirtaneshwar Gaurangadas. She wouldn't say it slow. I couldn't understand what she was saying. Karan Tatiana.
I've never heard anybody say 2 names together instead of just saying that first.
So I was like, I could not get it. So that's why I said, my name is Kirtaneshwar Gaurangadas. Nice to meet you.
Now, if they have a little bit of, contact with devotees previously, then you can, then it's good to give them your spiritual name.
I mean, Kirtan's a pretty easy name to remember, so sometimes I just tell them Kirtan. I don't tell them Kirtaneshwar Rangadas. So, I mean, we have to adjust. We don't want to adjust principles, and we don't want to become, I'll get your question in a second, Kamal. We don't want to become, too crazy, changing Prabhupada's statements and, going against Prabhupada. But we don't want to become too fanatical. It really takes some intelligence. But when you understand the point is to make devotees, and sometimes you may try something, it's like, it ain't really working. And so it's okay, fine. It's not really working, so let me do something else. Okay. So Bhishma Dev, when he was on this bed of arrows, he was receiving all of these entities so nicely with sweet words. He understood that the point isn't exactly, you better give them a garland, you do this and that. The point is the love, the kindness, the humility that we receive a person with. That's what's going to move them. That's the principle behind the details. Tamal?
I was just going to comment, it's extraordinary to think that Prabhupada wrote this before he ever came to the West. But he's already speaking in terms of when you go into another country, you make adjustments to that country to preach this message.
Yeah, because we have to understand the essence. And it's like, for me, more and more I'm kind of having a realization, apparently just recently, where I'm really not about becoming a religious person in my life. Like, I'm really thinking that more and more. I'm not trying to be some religious personality. I want to know Krishna. I want to have a spiritual life. I want to have a spiritual experience. We can get so much, we were talking about that today. No, me and Nadia were speaking today about, you can get so much false ego amplification from the way your tilak looks, from the way you dress. We love these things. We love it. Look at my orange robes. Look at this. Look at my title, so-and-so das, adhikari, sannyas, whatever. We can get so much false ego amplification from these things. Not that they always do, but we can. And really, it's vanity. Ultimately, it's a type of vanity. The real thing is that I'm a humble servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the devotees. And if we become absorbed in that, we may have all the looks of a Vaishnava. We may even act, in a sense, like a Vaishnava, but are we actually having a spiritual experience? It's not likely. It's likely we're just on an ego trip. A lot of times it happens. I'm on an ego trip, and I'm so identified with my organization, with even my guru. This is my guru. The guru becomes a possession of the ego rather than a means for spiritual advancement. And so people, they advertise their guru unnecessarily. Not that we shouldn't advertise our guru, but you see, this is kind of the concept, the consciousness that's there. So we should understand and live in a consciousness that I'm trying to have a spiritual experience. And spiritual experience is not dependent on dress. It's not dependent on the perfectness of our tilak, on so many things. It's dependent on the quality of our hearts. And we can't put it in a religious box. Otherwise it becomes ritualistic. And you just start going to Mangal Arti because it's what you do in the morning. You're not really thinking that this is actually an encounter with God. And we should have that consciousness of it. This is a spiritual experience. And then our lives become light. Our lives become actually beautiful. We can actually dance. We can actually be happy in the kirtan because we're having an experience of God. And so it's an important point to note that, it's the quality of the heart. And so we can say, so many things. Like, I think there's so many examples. The Bible is like the best example. But in our scriptures, we have a great example in terms of the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas in Vrindavan. They were asked by Krishna via the cowherd boys. And the cowherd boys, and the boys answer, "Hello, dear sirs. We are requesting that you give us food, for Krishna and Balaram are hungry." And they said, "Who are you, you little rascals, coming to us to ask us for food? Don't you see we're performing rituals? Do you see how good my tilak looks? Do you see how perfect my dhoti is folded? Sirs, little boys, stinky little cowherd boys, get out of here." Get out of here. And yeah, then they went, Krishna said, well, this is the way of a beggar. How about you go see the Dvijapatnis, the wives? My dear ladies, my dear Matajis, Krishna and Balaram are hungry. Krishna and Balaram are hungry. They just didn't even get dressed. They had their clothes weren't right. They just took all the food from the sacrifice and they didn't give it to the coward boys. They ran themselves to see Krishna. And that particular paragraph in the Bhagavatam is the best description of Krishna in the whole Bhagavatam. That's the most beautiful description of Krishna. His golden raiment, his beautiful herbs that are over his eyes, his sandalwood, beautiful feathers in his hair and flowers in his hair and all the cowherd boys, and he's got his cane and he's standing there, so beautiful. And these Madhajis, they come and they just offer everything to Krishna. And then they go back and then the Brahmins realize, they say, Prabhupada says, to hell with our sacrifices, to hell with our rituals, to hell with our rules and regulations. We missed the whole point. And you see that, in the Bible too. There's the whole, Jesus is going and healing people. And, the envious Pharisees, they say, he's healing someone on the Sabbath. You're doing work on the Sabbath, you bastard. And it's like, Jesus just tells them, like, your heart is full of blackness. You guys are nuts. And so they killed him. Not because of that, but there's a whole series of things. He was basically breaking so many rules and regulations and showing that love is above all things. And so, it's really difficult to be, you can't, this is like, we're going to break into a deeper level of spirituality here for a second, but it's really difficult to just try to be like, to stay in that religious consciousness your whole life. And, because like St. Paul said, the law will always break you. The law will always break you, meaning that, if you think that you're just making progress by doing everything right and you're holding on so tightly to the fact that, I get up early in the morning and I chant my rounds, and we should do those things. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but if that's if that's what's giving you juice, if that's what's making you feel okay, and you just, it just makes you hard-hearted actually in time. And pretty soon the dancing goes away. Pretty soon my ability to really express myself in the kirtan goes away, because it's not about that. It's about my relationship with God. And Krishna says, Sarvadharman prityaja mamekam sharanam prasadaya, that the highest level is that we ultimately are following Krishna. And we have to follow Krishna. We have to fly our own ship. And that's demonstrated in the Bhagavatam time and time again. Should we always follow the order of the Guru? Yes, we should always follow the order of the Guru. But one of the great Mahajans, he didn't follow the order of his Guru. He broke the order of his Guru, and he was cursed for it. He still faced the bad karma for doing that. He lost his, Bali Maharaj. So the highest order of things is to really, I don't want to be sentimental here, and I'm not in any way saying you should disobey Guru or spiritual authority. What I'm saying is there's an element of follow your heart. There's an element of that needs to be learned. And that's only learned by when you really give up these upadis and you start chanting Hare Krishna, begging Krishna for service, and you engage in the sadhana bhakti with a complete and utter desire that I'm going to follow God. And I'm willing to even give up positions, rituals, whatever it may be, to have that experience of God. We don't give up the principles of Krishna consciousness, which are, let me love Krishna, let me chant my rounds. Chanting is the end goal. Chanting is what you get when you do these things. When you abandon everything, you have chanting. That's what you get. You get the taste for chanting. You get the taste in relationship for God is increasing. But you see, if we hold on to these things, and I've seen before, and we've all probably experienced that there's a very mean devotee sometimes of. Maybe sometimes there's mean devotees. And they're always criticizing people for not coming to the standard that they think they're at. And then it's like, you see someone who may not be on the highest level, but they don't criticize. and basically they're full of love, and they can transform people's hearts. And it's like, yeah, who's the real spiritual person? Who's gonna go to heaven? I mean, so it's these things that we really, the false ego loves to grab onto religion. It loves to make I mean, in the beginning, when we become a devotee, or if we're born a devotee, I think it's a lot harder, to be quite honest. I think it's a lot harder for those born in the Hare Krishna movement to kind of realize this. But when we become a devotee, it's like I'm a new bhakta, and I'm full of just nonsense, and I really like this chanting. I taste it, and then in time, all of a sudden, look, he's such a nice speaker. He's got, you get the cool orange robes, you get the cool thread around your shoulder. You know how to really, you can throw some shlokas out there, and all of a sudden it's just a big amplifier of the false ego, whatever it may be. And then, you start styling yourself like a devotee. Now this isn't a dress of service. This is a dress of, look at me, man. We see that sometimes. You see, I mean, I don't want to, they have like the cool multicolored dhoti, and they got the dope beard, and they got the beautiful, turban going on, and they're super jacked, and it's like, obviously it's like, look at me, girls. I mean, I'm really not trying to criticize, but it's obvious, and it should be pointed out so that we don't fall into that trap. Look at me, girls, and then the girls too, look at me, man, I got the beautiful gopi skirt and the best tilak and the beautiful, whatever. I'm not saying those things are bad, but I'm saying it's an offering. It's not meant to increase our lust. And so we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware of that the false ego will adopt and take over these things. So that's why modesty is always encouraged. Modesty is encouraged, that we, remain modest. And, social media is an amplifier of all this stuff nowadays. Let me look at, how many followers, how many people are seeing me online. I mean, social media posts, unless you're preaching, sometimes you may want to update your family about your life or something. That's different. Like I post on my Instagram mainly for my family, like, give them an update, like this is what I'm doing right now. And it's like, so that I can kind of have some contact with them. I don't post very often. Or, you post a class or something, maybe you're doing. But if you're posting constantly on social media, pictures of yourself, and it's a means to get followers, then what is this? This is actually just false ego. But it looks like devotional service. And so this is something that only a spiritual personality, such as a guru, Shiksha guru, they have to pull that out. I'll tell you what that is. That's Pralambasura. That is Pralambasura coming in the shape of a cowherd boy, looking cool like a cowherd boy with his turban and his beard, and his cool dhoti, looking just like a cowherd boy, maybe not a beard. That's Pralamba, though. And he's playing along, and next thing you know, he's trying to kill Krishna. He's trying to kill Lord Balaram. So Lord Balaram, the Adi Guru, has to smash him in the head. What's wrong with you? That's the whole symbology behind the Pralamba demon. So it is really important that we understand the principles are like, guardrails, like when you go bowling, take a little girl or a little boy bowling, and they can't bowl, they can't even hold a bowling ball. So you see them there. I haven't bowled in at least 15 years, by the way, but they're like, you see them there, they push their bowling ball, and they have the bumpers. And so eventually it slowly hits the pins, and you say, hey, yay, you did good. But really, if they were actually playing like real bowling, they would just pretty much roll it directly into the gutter. So, we're like that. So we have these rules and regulations are basically bumping us on the right path. But if we take advantage of them in terms of our false ego, it's really wrong. And so what this is saying is we're adjusting because we understand the goal, and the real spiritual taste that you're going to get is when you say, hey, rascal, become Krishna conscious. That is it. I can't even tell you how many times I've had some new devotee come in, and they're like, they see the deities, and they're just like, not even new devotees, they're just like new person. They're like, oh, how you doing? Spreading their feet right at the deities and just like chilling out, doing weird things in the temple. And it's like, I'm not going to say anything. Krishna, I'll take the offense on myself. I'll take the offense on myself because we're trying to preach. Once they surrender a little bit and they say, hey, I want to learn, now it's time to tell them, hey, maybe you should, wear that in the temple. Maybe you shouldn't put your feet at the deity. So in this way, we become friends with them, and we love them. And that's the highest principle. It's love. And so there's an element of that in our Krishna consciousness. It's there throughout the Bhagavatam. It's about devotees breaking structures down and going deeper, going beyond. Vyasadeva wrote all the Vedas. He wrote all the rules and regulations, and Narada said, you're full of it. Write the Bhagavatam, which is basically, how do you sarvadharman? Krishna gives this whole thing, and he says abandon religion. And this is the whole kind of concept, and this is spiritual. This is where you go beyond. This is where you become a mystic. And we see that time and time again in the Bhagavatam. And we see that, it's unlimited amounts. There's unlimited stories that are demonstrating this fact. But the Dvijapatnis is one of the best for sure. So I think we'll leave with that. I see Tamal closing his iPad.
It was like doing that over dramatically.
Yeah, it's like, see, that's your mouth. I want prasad. So in that way, I'll just end with this fact that even the renunciation in the wrong way could be done like, it could be an aparad. And you take aparad in the most basic sense, it means against love. Against love. Love is the most important thing. So somehow find a way to be loving and express love. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare